What do you think about when you see a tree? Nature, perhaps? Squirrels? Birds? Or do you think about pickaxes, wooden swords, and the prospect of firewood that will keep you alive for one more desperate minute in the gathering dark? If it's the latter, and you know it is, you've probably played far more survival games than you'd like to admit. From the bright blocky colours of Minecraft to the foreboding darkness of the forest, it seems that we just can't get enough of finding materials to magically craft into useful tools and weaponry to take on the outside world. Let's ignore the fact that we definitely have no idea how to do any of it in real life and take a look at the 10 best survival games on PC. Some of the titles on this list feel decidedly lo-fi, with fuzzy menus and grimy character models. Not so The Long Dark, which is one of the most visually striking survival games on Steam. But don't let the pleasant aesthetic fool you, it's a vicious experience, painting a stark but beautiful picture of just how ruthless Mother Nature can be. You might want to play with a hot water bottle, as the cold is your biggest enemy here, a constant gnawing threat which dictates everything you do. But you'll also have to put up with the long nights, hunger, thirst, and really dark darks, like, oh dear, I can't see my way out of this cabin, dark. When you do finally find a stash of gear, it feels amazing, but be prepared for plenty of bleak, brutal deaths before you do. At least that match will keep you warm. Yes, Rust is the game that once randomly generated the size of a certain part of the male anatomy, but go beyond the size mattering jokes, and this is an impressive survival sim. As ever, the name of the game is to keep air in your lungs and food in your digital stomach, but this is made significantly more difficult by the presence of other players in your game who really don't like you. Going it alone is tricky, but jumping into Rust with friends can get seriously rewarding as you build impressive bases and work together in harmony. There's a lot to learn, and it's worth hunting tips online beforehand, but Rust's construction options are vast, letting you build your ideal survival retreat. Sure, hell can be other people, but there are full areas of players who aren't about to murder you and steal everything, including the clothes off your back. Honest. As pure stressful survival sims go, Don't Starve does exactly what it says on the tin, plunging you into a harsh, randomised world of monsters, murderous trees, pig shrines and toothy hounds. This experience is a dark delight. Starting off as Wilson, you must spend your days tracking down as many resources as possible, dodging those giant eyeballs on legs of course, before scurrying back to the safe flame of your campfire and doing it all again tomorrow. If the daytimes look intimidating, it's the nights you really have to worry about. Ominous eyes flicker around the seemingly secure ring of your campfire, your sanity plummets as things go bump in the night, and the stress of running out of kindling is a permanent terror. Beautiful Burton-esque visuals accompany your quest for building the ultimate survival base, and you can even do it all with a friend in Don't Starve Together. That is, if you want to squabble over the last morsel of uncooked rabbit meat with a pal as you die together in the dark. Plus, if you fancy a more tropical location, there's even a shipwrecked version of the game that makes being trapped on an island and befriending a volleyball sound like an easy ride. Wilson! If it wasn't already terrifying enough trying to survive out in the wilds without access to USB 3, the forest ups the horror ante by dropping you into the woods alongside cannibalistic mutants. The lone survivor of a plane crash, you must cobble together enough materials not just to keep yourself fed and watered, but also to defend against the hungry horde who will hunt you down day or night like a Big Mac on legs. Ways to stay alive in this unrelenting world include building traps, crafting Molotov cocktails, finding spears, and even burning effigies that look like light fittings from hell IKEA. Once you've got over the fear factor, the forest is an impressively layered survival sim. There's no settling down for the night and waiting until morning here. Every moment is a constant fight for survival as mutants see your fire and head in your direction. And don't be fooled by how the forest might look first thing in the morning. There's plenty of running and screaming to come. The other game about zombies, crafting and punching grass is a curious but enticing mix of survival horror, RPG and tower defence. It might not look like much, but there's something strangely compelling about the resource grind in 7 Days to Die. You might start off gathering enough plant fibre to clothe your curiously undressed avatar, but soon after that you'll be thinking big, crafting boxes and bedrolls and finding ways to shore up your shack to hold off the incoming hordes. The setting too is different enough to make this worth your time if you want to experience a different sort of wilderness. Like many of the best survival games, it feels like a constant threat, with environmental effects that will make your struggle for survival even tougher. Even the flora feels like it's out to get you, and as for the fauna, well, you probably know the answer to that. DayZ is one of those games that makes you amazingly glad you'll never see the end of days. The zombie apocalypse might seem like fun in theory, but DayZ tells us that a stranger would kill us with a hatchet without so much as a second glance for nothing more than an old can of beans. It's a savage and grim portrayal of survival games, and all the better for it. The stern Eastern Bloc appearance of Chernarus really adds to the atmosphere, and the wilderness feels legitimately wild. Throw in some brilliantly observed extras, things like walking without shoes can infect your feet, and the wrong type of blood transfusion can kill you, and you have a survival game of unrivaled savagery. Many of the games on this list have stuff in common: zombies, wastelands, the inevitable decay of life, but Subnautica offers a different take on survival in a world where you're immersed in a literal sea of life. Instead of digging in filth and crafting ragged trousers out of scraps, everything in Subnautica is pristine, a hopeful take on a familiar genre in a world you'll actually want to explore. But doing so isn't simple. You'll still need to look out for food and water, but the nature of the game calls for a far more obvious resource: oxygen. It adds a different type of stress to each journey. Every trip is a trade-off between exploration and suffocation. Instead of fretting about dying of malnutrition or being sniped by another human, the battle for survival in Subnautica really is as simple as breathing. At first glance, Project Zomboid might not look like a survival game. In fact, you might have seen this footage and thought we'd included The Sims as a piece of scathing social commentary, because, life is a survival game, yeah? But no, that would be terrible. Instead, Project Zomboid provides a wholly different examination of the crushing inevitability of death. Granted, it has some Sims-ish elements, like the ability to burn your food and read books to increase your skills, but the likeness ends when you visit your neighbour's house and find them dead, rotting and banging their head against the door. This never happened with Mortimer Goth. Project Zomboid is a complex Blackley comic survival game that's worth exploring if you want to experience the doomed battle for existence from a different perspective. There are loads of stressful games on this list. Most of them are a toxic cocktail of starvation, violence, drowning and betrayal. But somehow, this War of Mine still stands out as the most harrowing of the lot. Every decision has life or death repercussions, and there are no easy choices. In comparison, the decisions in Telltale games look as inconsequential as picking a pizza topping. This War of Mine takes place in the fictional, war-torn city of Pogorin. You're no soldier here. Instead, you're shacked up in a besieged house with a group of randomly generated civilians, all of whom have different backstories and abilities. As you struggle to survive until a ceasefire, it becomes a test of whose skills and sanity you're willing to risk to save the many. Choices that seem sensible one moment will come back to haunt you the next, providing a compelling, uncomfortably realistic portrayal of the horrors of war. And, if you want to feel even worse, this War of Mine, The Little Ones, brings children into the mix. Fun and games just aren't the right words here. Yes, it's predictable, and yes, Minecraft is more famous for its builds than its survival elements, but staying alive is at the heart of Mojang's blockbuster, and it's responsible for introducing elements of the genre to millions upon millions of people. Nobody ever forgets their first night in Minecraft. From the desperate punching of soil to the mad confusion of crafting your first tool, there's something immediate and exciting about every fresh start. How much can you build before darkness falls? Seeing the sunrise after a night plagued by the oddly terrifying zombies and giant spiders is a formative experience in every gamer's life. While surviving itself isn't especially hard, for the sake of variety, it's nice to have a game that allows you to flourish rather than just cling on to life like a child on a roller coaster. And by flourish, we obviously mean continue to sleep in a mud burrow. Life goals, yeah? And there you go. We hope you made it to the end without getting eaten by wolves or dying of hypothermia. Let us know in the comments what your favourite survival game is, and forgive us for leaving off Ark Survival Evolved. Please hit that like button if you'd eat a dead mouse to survive another day, and subscribe to Logitech G so that we can enjoy the end days together.